like you said, 1 in 5 have chronic pain. But, it'd be fair to say that 5 in 5 have discontinuous thinking.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. And so your point a bit earlier on being about, oh, I've got a mind. And it's like, let's not undermine the significance of that phrase, because that means that you lived your whole life not realizing that you had one, and not living, and not only that, but so many, in fact, most of the other, people on this planet are also in that point where they don't realize that they have a mind. Right. And I think that's the profound comment that you made, like, oh, I've got a mind. It's like, yeah, none of us realize that we have a mind. And that's kind of like the mind-blowing thing about this. Like, what?
It's totally mind-blowing. Yeah,
It's
totally
mind-blowing. It's like, oh, as a thought arises, you observe it. Okay, what do you mean it arises? Where does it arise from? Why
yeah,
does it
and who's
arise?
observing?
Who's the observer? Like John always says, the awareness versus the observing versus, And so all of these amazing questions, but it highlights this problem that most of us, 99.99999, are living their lives without, I don't want to use the word control. I don't want to say that they haven't got a mind, but it's almost in this where whatever the track is playing, I'm just going to listen to without
Yeah, well,
realizing.
most people haven't had the good fortune to be introduced to their own minds. I was lucky enough with this chap,
Yeah.
and he introduced me to my own mind.
But the
What a
fact that it's
gift!
so simple, not simple, but the fact that it's just so readily available and it's right there. It's like, how does not
I
everyone know
know,
this? It's
I
like the
know.
Matrix just right under your nose, and you just to sit and observe, go, oh, that's a thought, and that's a thought, and that's a thought. So then when you do take it out into daily life, like I always say, it's like the wax on, wax off on the cushion. But the whole point is that when you go out, it's like, yeah, you're going to have all these thoughts. And in that moment, can you notice them rather than just blindly following them?
Yeah. And as Paul Gilbert, who's done a lot of work in compassion, he says it's chaotic in there, meaning in
Yeah.
the brain,
Yeah.
and that we're designed for survival, not pleasure.
Yeah.
There's a lot of research emerging around the nervous system and how a lot of us have got dysregulated nervous systems, and we're just in this kind of hyper aroused state all the time. We're in a threat state all the time
Yes.
because that's our default setting.
Yep.
That's the default setting. Is survival is paramount. But we can change that through training, through practice. And one of the phrases which I often use is you can get your mind working with you rather than against you. So when someone says to me, what's mindfulness? I say it's getting your mind working with you rather than against you.
Yeah.
And that's
It's so
simple.
easy to get caught up in that autopilot mode, resistance mode, and just pushing through. I've heard you talk in the past about, I heard one interview you mentioned something about a annoying moment where you were at a red light, like, come on, I need to get home. And I've experienced that, after a gig, and I just, the sciatic, it's like a pit bull, latched onto your leg, and sometimes to the point where you just can't sit.
Yeah.
And I remember screaming myself at a red light in the past, and it's so easy, and then the pain just accumulates from the resistance. So
Yeah.
I love that, and I'm hearing a lot of you're not alone, and I love that about you. We're not alone.
We're not alone. Yeah. I mean, and another big part of my approach, my teaching, what I try to bring into my life is love and kindness. That mindfulness isn't a cool, aloof, sort of analytical activity. It can be, but I think true mindfulness is very warm, very rich, very kind, very empathetic. That's very, very dear to me, all those qualities.
Yeah.